Okay, the rest of this lecture, I have a few questions that are basically recaps of everything that we covered in Chapter 7. These are all taken from the textbook, so if you want some extra practice on any of these, take a look at them in the textbook. This is the back of Chapter 7, number 26, 30. In 26, we're going back to using z-scores. So finding area using z-scores. You would basically use normal CDF, and you would use a mean of 0 and a standard deviation of 1 for each of these. In number 30, you're finding the z-scores given the area. So when you have to find the z-scores but you're being provided with the area, you have to use IMV norm. Okay, so for each of these, because you're being asked for z-scores, the mean is also 0 and standard deviation is 1. Okay, number 33 is also a great recap exercise. You're asked, let's see, you're told that the average Facebook user spends approximately 7 hours a month on the Facebook site, so that is a mean of 7. Assume that the amount of user time on the Facebook site can be approximated by a normal distribution. So you've got a bell curve. You're given the mean is 7 and you're given a standard deviation of 1.65. For each of these questions, you're asked for the percentage of Facebook users, which is basically proportion under the bell curve. So each of these questions, 8.5 hours, less than 8.5 hours, at least 4.5 hours, either less than 4.5 or more than 10, at most 390 minutes. This part D is just throwing you because you're going to basically turn 390 minutes into hours by dividing by 60, and then it's the same as A, B, and C. So all of these questions basically make use of normal CDF. You're being asked for a percentage of users, which is a proportion of area under the bell curve. So you're going to be using normal CDF for each of these. With 34, let's recap this. According to the latest computer internet usage survey of 1,500 high school students, the amount of social time per day a student spends on the internet is approximately normally distributed. So you've got the bell curve. The mean is 210 and the standard deviation is 45. Okay. So you've got a bell curve, you've got a mean, and you've got a standard deviation. You've also got a total number of high school students that were part of the survey. Part A, determine the proportion of students that spend less than 176 minutes. When you're trying to find a proportion, you're going to be using IMV norm. Part B, the number of students that spend between 150 and 300 minutes on the internet. Again, you're given raw scores 150 and 300 minutes. You can find the proportion of area between 150 and 300 minutes, take that proportion of area, multiply it by the total number of high school students in the survey, and that will give you the exact number of high school students that spend between 150 and 300 minutes. So it's again a normal CDF question, but after you get your proportion, you'll multiply it by 1,500. The percent of students that spend more than 4 hours on the internet. Okay, percent again is basically a proportion, but you're going to take your answer and multiply it by 100 when you get it. 4 hours. This question is provided to you in minutes, so you simply got to take that 4 and multiply it by 60 to turn it into minutes. But Part C again is a normal CDF question because you're finding a proportion of area, and after you find that proportion of area, just simply multiply it by 100 to get the percent. Parts D and E are different. Part D asks for a computer usage time. So if the variable on the horizontal axis of this bell curve is computer usage time, then this question is asking us for a raw score, a value on the horizontal axis, provided a piece of area, the top 5%. So you use IMV norm when you're given area and you need to find a raw score from the horizontal axis. And Part E is one of the more trickier parts. The maximum computer usage time spent on the internet by the lowest 400 users. Okay, so this is tricky. You're going to find the proportion that represents the lower 400 users. The proportion of the lower 400 is basically 400 divided by the total, 1500. That will give you the lower 400, basically the lower 400 proportion, or the lower 400%. Using that lower 400%, you recognize that that is area on the bottom end of the bell curve, the left-hand side of the bell curve. Using that area, you can find the computer usage time that corresponds to the horizontal axis that cuts off that bottom piece of area. And that's where you would get the answer for Part E. So again, D and E are IMV norm. A, B, and C would be normal CDF questions. Okay, then we did some work on percentiles. In a normal distribution, if the percent of data values greater than the data value 60 is 84.13, the percentile rank of 60 is, well, you basically have to understand what percentile rank means. Percentile rank means the area to the left of a raw score. So if you're told that the area to the right of that raw score, because it says greater than, the area to the right of the raw score is 84.13, then you could easily find the area to the left of that raw score by subtracting 84.13 from 100, and that would give you the percentile rank. Okay, in number 41, you're asked to find the percentile rank for each of these raw scores. You have the mean and you have the standard deviation. You're told it's a normal distribution, so you've got an image of a bell curve. The percentile rank of a score is basically its area to the left, converted into a percent, and then rounded to the nearest whole number. So if you take the area to the left of 286, and then take that proportion of area, multiply it by 100, and then round to the nearest whole number, that will give you its percentile rank. Okay, so for each of these questions, you're going to be finding a proportion of area, which is going to be found with normal CDF. Okay, number 42. If the mean is 80, the standard deviation is 10, and it's a normal distribution, if you have a data value at the 70th percentile, then the data has a value of, so it's basically using the fact that the lower 70% of the bell curve is being shaded in, and you have to find what data value cuts off that bottom 70%. So this question, you're going to be using IMV norm. When you are given an area, so you're given the bottom 70% of area, and you're being asked to find the data value that cuts off that area. That's IMV norm. 47. In a normal distribution which has a mean of 900 and a standard deviation of 350, find the probability. Okay, finding probability is an application of area under the bell curve, which is found with normal CDF. So for each of these, you're going to use normal CDF to find a proportion of area under the bell curve, which is its probability. According to a manufacturer of Crackle natural peach flavored iced tea drinks, the net amount of iced tea in a glass bottle is normally distributed. So we have a bell curve with a mean of 12 and a standard deviation of 0.018 ounces. What's the probability? Okay, probability, so you want to think area under the bell curve, that a bottle selected at random from the manufacturing process contains less than 11.98, between 11.96 and 12.01, greater than 12.03. So A, B, and C is probability questions which are found with normal CDF. If the maximum amount of iced tea that a standard bottle can hold is 12.05 ounces, then what's the probability that a bottle selected at random was overfilled? Again, you're being asked for probability, so you're going to be using normal CDF. And the probability of being overfilled would be its probability of having more than 12.05 ounces. Okay, so those few questions at the end there, I would recommend you practice them and see if you can do them. Each of them are from the textbook, and they basically capture all the topics that we've talked about in Chapter 7 and things that you should be able to do. So any questions you have on those, you can either email me or post them in the discussion forum. They're great practice. Otherwise, you can practice your web work, and of course always look at the practice test questions from the test practice folder for more questions on this topic. If you have any questions, I'll be available with email or the discussion forum, of course. And this is the last topic before the midterm, so if you have any questions on the midterm, I'll be able to answer any topics from the beginning of the course till now. So I will see you at the midterm, and good luck with your studying.